Come on along, join the caravan. Hear the stories and the songs from 100 different lands. We've got puppets, films and rhymes, tales from once upon a time. There's always a show, rain or shine, just look for the smiling caravan sign. Come on along, join the caravan. Step right up, come right in. The show is about to begin.
The Pig's Wedding. Smoke signals announced. Tomorrow is Parker's wedding. Tomorrow is Parker's wedding. You are all invited. The pigs squealed for joy and came from far and wide to see Parker and Curlytail, his bride, be married. What a lot of guests we have, and how nice they are. But they do smell. Parker sniffed too. Curlytail was right. They did smell. Friends, we're glad you came, but you do have to get cleaned up for a wedding. When they were all clean, Curlytail said, "Now we must dress them up." We'll paint on our clothes. Each pig got just the clothes he or she wanted, and everything fitted perfectly. Now, Parker, where is your top hat? I've got you and you've got me. After the wedding, the guest pigs were hungry and thirsty from all the singing. But the newlyweds were still dancing, and the guests soon joined in. Stop crying, everyone, said Parker. We're wet enough already. Follow me! That evening, the newlyweds said goodbye to their guests. Curly-tail, I have an idea. They fell asleep, dreaming happy pig dreams.
The islands rise green out of the sea, where the waves foam over the grey rocks, and strange things may happen there. Don Allen lived on the biggest island. He had a small farmhouse called a croft, with 10 sheep grazing a few acres of land, and he had a boat for fishing in the sea. His parents were dead, and he had no wife, so he lived there with only a dog called Angus to herd the sheep, and a cat called Cat to keep the croft free of mice. He was lonely sometimes. He would listen to the wind singing in the chimney and wish it were a human voice. One spring morning, Don Allen went down to the beach with his dog Angus for company to rake up the seaweed that he dug into his garden each year. He had gathered a great bale of weed when he thought he heard music from the rocks beside the sea. It was like the voice of the wind, but Don Allen was a long way from his chimney. He went to look, and in wonder and delight, he saw 3 beautiful girls sitting on the rocks, naked, combing their long hair. One of the girls had fair hair, one red and one black. The fair-haired girl was singing. She was the most beautiful of the 3, and Don Allen could not take his eyes from her. He gazed and gazed at her gleaming white body and her long-lashed dark eyes, and he listened to her lilting voice singing its wordless song. And he knew suddenly that he would never be happy unless he could share his life with this magical girl. Then Angus the dog turned from chasing a crab and saw the girls, and he began to growl deep in his throat like summer thunder far away. The three girls looked up, startled, and saw Don Allen and his dog. In an instant, each of them snatched up a shapeless bundle that was lying at her side and plunged over the edge of the rocks into the sea. And all at once, they were no longer girls, but selkies, grey seals, three sleek shapes flashing dark through the waves. Don Allen stood on the beach forlorn. "Come back," he called to his memory of the lovely singing girl. "Oh, come back." But nothing was there but the empty sea. Don Allen went sadly home, carrying his bale of seaweed, and on the way he met old Thomas. Thomas was the most ancient man in the islands. He had a lame leg and only 3 teeth left in his head, but he had sharp eyes. "And what's the matter with you, Don Allen?" he said. "Did the sea take your boat in exchange for that fine weed?" Don Allen sighed. "I am in love," he said, and he told old Thomas about the beautiful vanished girls who had turned into seals. "Oh, dear me," said old Thomas, whistling through his 3 teeth. "A bad choice you have made, for those are the daughters of the King of Loch Lan, out beyond the sea's brim, and they are selkies indeed. Just once a year, on the 7th day of the highest tides of spring, they get the land longing on them, and they slip out of their skins and take human form for a day." "I love her, the fair-haired one," Don Allen said. "I want her to be my wife." "There's only one way for that," old Thomas said. "What is it then?" said Don Allen quickly. "Tell me, tell me." Old Thomas looked thoughtfully at Don Allen's bale of seaweed. "And what will you give me if I tell you?" he said. "This fine weed for your garden," Don Allen said, "and one like it every year." "Will you carry it to my croft?" "I will," Don Allen said eagerly. "And will you dig it into the soil?" "I will, I will." Don Allen snatched old Thomas up from the ground, perched him on top of the seaweed, and carried him off towards his croft. "Tell me," he said. Old Thomas grinned down at him. "You must wait until the same day next year," he said, "at the 7th stream of the flood tide in spring. And if then you are still foolish enough to be in love, you must go to that rock and steal the bundle that is beside the Selkie girl when she is out of the sea, for that is her skin, and without it she cannot become a seal again. You must not destroy it, or she will die, but as long as you keep it safe and hidden, she will follow you and stay with you." Don Allen shouted for joy. Old Thomas said quietly, "But a wild creature will always go back to the wild in the end." Don Allen paid no heed to that. He waited for a year, then went back to the rocky beach on the 7th day of the spring flood tides. There were the 3 girls again, the fair-haired one singing even more bewitchingly than before. Don Allen crept up to the rock where they sat. The dark-haired girl caught sight of him and cried out in warning, and all 3 girls dived at once into the sea. But Don Allen had hold of the bundled sealskin of the girl he loved. She begged him from the waves, "Oh, please, give me back my skin." Out in the ocean swells, Don Allen could see 2 gleaming shapes swimming, waiting for her. A dark grey seal and one with reddish skin. "Come with me," he called to the Selkie girl. "Come with me and be my wife, and I will work for you and love you well, and we shall be happy all our days." He walked away up the beach with her skin, knowing she must follow, and when she came after him, he gave her a soft woolen shawl that belonged to his mother to cover her nakedness. She was crying bitterly, but she followed him. So Don Allen married the Selkie girl, and they lived together in the croft with the dog and the cat and the sheep outside grazing the hills. She would not tell him her true name, so he called her Mary. He kept her sealskin hidden, checking it often to make sure it never cracked or dried out. After the first day, she never asked for it again. Mary worked as hard as Don Allen on the croft, and because he was gentle and loving, she no longer wept. When their first child was born, he saw her smile. But he never heard her sing again. And each year, when the 7th day of the flood tides came round in the spring, he would find her looking sadly out at the sea, with her head tilted as if she were listening. As the years passed, 5 children were born to Mary and Don Allen, 3 boys and 2 girls. They were called Dougal, Margaret, Niall, Kate Annie and James. They were bright, handsome children, sweet-voiced and strong-backed, and they lived happily on the croft by the sea. Only Kate Annie, who was thoughtful, wondered why she felt sometimes that her quiet mother had lost something precious and wished that she could give it back to her again. One summer day, Don Allen got up very early before the sunrise because it was his day for checking secretly that the sealskin was safe and well. Softly he went outside and he pulled 3 stones from the wall of the house, which was as thick as a man's arm is long. Then he took out the sealskin, spread it flat on the ground, rubbed it carefully with oil, and put it back again. He did not see his youngest son, James, who had come creeping out of the house after him. James stared. What was his father doing so secret, so early in the morning? He slipped back indoors to his bed, wondering, what was so special about the skin of a seal? Later that day, Don Allen took the 3 biggest children out to the fields. James went outside the house and looked at the wall. He could see the place where his father had moved the stones. He went back to his mother, who was making oatcakes with Kate Annie. "Mother," he said, "why is my father keeping an old sealskin in our wall?" Mary stopped mixing the dough. Very slowly, she put down the bowl and spoon on the table, and she looked at James as if she had never seen him before. Both children saw a glow of happiness like sunlight in her face, and for the first time in their lives they heard her laugh. "Oh, James," she said, "you have found my skin." She took his hand and Kate Annie's, and the 3 of them ran outside and took the sealskin from the wall. Mary laughed again in delight, and Kate Annie felt warm at the sound. "Come," Mary said to them, and with the skin in her arms, she led them down to the sea. Kate Annie felt frightened, and yet she knew that something right was happening, whatever it might be. Their mother said to them, "Be brave, because I must leave you. For I was brought here from my own people against my will, 20 years past. And I have 5 children in the sea, and 5 on the land. And that is a hard case to be in." Kate Annie said, "We have brothers and sisters in the sea." "You have," she said, "and so do I." "Don't go," James said. He blinked hard because he felt he was too old to cry. "I love you," Mary said, and she stroked his hair. "I shall never be far away." She raised her head and looked out at the sea. "You must go to them. It's their turn," Kate Annie said. She took her brother's hand. "I'll look after James." Mary stepped into the sea and smiled at the wash of the waves about her feet. She said, "I shall always be here watching over you, whether you are in the islands or on the sea. I promise you. And every year at the 7th stream of the flood tide in spring, you will all see me as I am now." She kissed them and she dived into the sea, holding the sealskin. Out in the ocean swells, they saw two gleaming shapes swimming, waiting for her. A dark grey seal and one with reddish skin. Then suddenly there were three, as a light-coloured seal joined them. The three curved and swirled and dived together in the foaming water, and then they were gone. "She isn't drowned, is she?" James said. "Of course not," said Kate Annie. "Come home and we'll bake the oatcakes." They told Don Allen when he came back. He said sorrowfully, "Old Thomas was right in the end." But none of the children understood what he meant. Whenever Don Allen and his children went fishing in all the years afterwards, their nets took 3 times as many fish as those of anyone else. When storms churned the waves and threw wrecks on the shore, their boat was always safe. There were tales that great grey seals had been seen carrying it on their backs. In spring, at the flood tide, the family would go down to the rocks by the sea, and they would come back with a look on their faces like sunlight. And still, today, if you listen to the wind blowing around Don Allen's house, there is a singing in it that seems to come from the sea. The islands rise green out of the sea, where the waves foam over the grey rocks, and strange things may happen there.
The Happy Owls. A legend that is also true. Once upon a time, in an old stone ruin, there lived a pair of owls. All the year through, they were very happy. On a farm nearby, there were all kinds of fowl who did nothing all day but eat and drink and fight with one another. They could never think of anything better to do. One day, the peacock noticed the owls, and he wondered why they did not quarrel. "Why is it that they are so happy?" he said. The rooster suggested, "Why don't you visit the owls and ask them how they can live together so peacefully?" The peacock said, "Very well, I shall." Dear owls, how is it that you are so happy? Well, Mr. Peacock, we will tell you. But first, go and fetch all your friends. When the chickens, the ducks, the geese, and all the others were assembled, the owls began their story. When spring comes, we are happy to see everything come to life after the long winter's sleep. The trees put forth their buds and leaves. The meadows are covered with thousands of tiny flowers. And birds everywhere are singing merrily. Later, around every flower, bumblebees are buzzing, and all kinds of butterflies are dancing. They flit to and fro, gathering honey from the golden sunflowers. Then we know that summer is here. And when everything is green and growing, and the trees nod their leafy crowns to us in the warm sunshine, we sit in a shady nook in the cool forest and are at peace with the world. Then autumn comes, and the spider, who has waited through the glorious summer under a leaf, comes out and spins her web to hold up the tired leaves a little longer. We rejoice to see her. And finally, when all the leaves are fallen and the earth is covered with snow, we come back and are cozy in our old home. For winter is here again. What nonsense! Screamed the chickens, the ducks, the peacock, and the geese. So you call that happiness? For they had understood nothing of all this. And the barnyard fowl turned their backs on the owls and went on living as before. But the owls snuggled still closer to one another, blinked their big round eyes, and went on thinking their wise thoughts.
I'm writing a letter to Amy. I'm inviting her to my party, Peter announced. Why don't you just ask her? You didn't write to anyone else, said his mother. Peter stared at the sheet of paper for a while and said, well, this way it's sort of special. He folded the letter quite a few times, put it in the envelope, and sealed it. "Now I'll mail it," he said. "What did you write?" his mother asked. "Will you please come to my birthday party, Peter?" "You should tell her when to come." So he wrote on the back of the envelope, "It is this Saturday at 2. Now I'll mail it. Put on a stamp." He did, and started to leave. "Wear your raincoat, it looks like rain." He put it on and said, "It looks like rain. You'd better stay in, Willie." And ran out to mail his letter. Walking to the mailbox, Peter looked at the sky. Dark clouds raced across it like wild horses. He glanced up at Amy's window. She wasn't there. Only Peppy, her parrot, sat peering down. "Willie, didn't I tell you to stay home?" Peter thought, what will the boys say when they see a girl at my party? Suddenly there was a flash of lightning and a roar of thunder. A strong wind blew the letter out of his hand. Peter chased the letter. He tried to stop it with his foot, but it blew away. Then it flew high into the air and landed, skipping across a hopscotch game. The letter blew this way and that. Peter chased it this way and that. He couldn't catch it. Big drops of rain began to fall. Just then, someone turned the corner. It was Amy. She waved to him. The letter flew right toward her. She mustn't see it, or the surprise will be spoiled. They both ran for the letter. In his great hurry, Peter bumped into Amy. He caught the letter before she could see it was for her. Quickly, he stuffed the letter into the mailbox. He looked for Amy, but she had run off crying. Now she'll never come to my party, thought Peter. He saw his reflection in the street. It looked all mixed up. When Peter got back to his house, his mother asked, "Did you mail your letter?" "Yes," he said sadly. Saturday came at last. Everybody arrived but Amy. "Shall I bring the cake out now?" his mother asked Peter. "Let's wait a little," said Peter. "Now! Bring it out now!" chanted the boys. "All right," said Peter slowly. "Bring it out now." Just then the door opened. In walked Amy with her parrot. "A girl? Ugh," said Eddie. "Happy birthday, Peter," said Amy. "Happy birthday, Peter," repeated the parrot. Peter's mother brought in the cake she had baked and lit the candles. Everyone sang. "Make a wish," cried Amy. "Wish for a truck full of ice cream," shouted Eddie. "A store full of candy and no stomachache." But Peter made his own wish and blew out all the candles at once.
The Owl and the Pussycat. The Owl and the Pussycat went to sea in a beautiful pea-green boat. They took some honey and plenty of money wrapped up in a 5-pound note. The owl looked up to the stars above and sang to a small guitar. Oh, lovely pussy, oh, pussy, my love, what a beautiful pussy you are, you are, you are. What a beautiful pussy you are. Pussy said to the owl, "You elegant fowl, how charmingly sweet you sing. Oh, let us be married. Too long we have tarried, but what shall we do for a ring?" They sailed away for a year and a day to the land where the bong tree grows. And there in a wood, a piggy-wig stood with a ring at the end of his nose. His nose, with a ring at the end of his nose. "Dear pig, are you willing to sell for 1 shilling your ring?" Said the piggy, "I will." So they took it away and were married next day by the turkey who lives on the hill. They dined on mince and slices of quince, which they ate with a runcible spoon. And hand in hand, on the edge of the sand, they danced by the light of the moon. The moon, the moon. They danced by the light of the moon.
Parents, the stories in the Children's Circle series are based on outstanding books for children, which you can get from your public library, bookstore, or from CC Studios, Weston, Connecticut, 06883. Please phone 1-800-KIDS-VID. In Connecticut, 1-222-0002.